down in the ward over the last year, so I've got a fairly good idea what are the main things. Obviously I've found individual problems that people have got, which I've already taken up for them. But I would say from my pitch to the voters of Mark Hall would cover the areas they're most concerned about. First of all, parking. There's a lot of concern about parking. Obviously the areas of Mark Hall weren't designed for the car, but there are solutions to these problems, and as a highway engineer I'm fully confident that I can work out a parking scheme for every estate in consultation with the residents. Secondly, bus services. General problem in Harlow, but particularly affects our residents in Mark Hall. Again, I've got some experience of dealing with the bus transport system in Harlow, and I've got a team of volunteers who are going to monitor bus services and hold the companies to account. But also I'd like to engage with them in a positive way and try and improve bus services. Thirdly, I find that people are a bit cynical about politicians in that once you're elected we never hear from you again. So I intend to set up a modern blog site where I can let people know what I'm doing on their behalf, and also they can let me know what their problems are so we can communicate in real time, which is what people want these days. And lastly, just on the basis of representation and advocacy, I've been a trade union rep and an advocate for decades, so I'm confident I can represent the community of Mark Hall as well as individual residents with their problems.
Going back to what you're saying about being, when you were a council officer of many decades experience, does that help you understand in many ways the system? You know, you talk about parking, or indeed I know a couple of people I've spoken to in your ward about housing repairs. Does that help in your experience in that way?
Well, certainly I'm not very knowledgeable about housing repairs because I was obviously a civil engineer in the highways and infrastructure, but yes, it helps firstly to understand what the solutions might be available, if you like, what is the toolkit, and secondly obviously to understand the constraints, legal and administrative hurdles that we'll have to overcome. But I'm confident we can overcome them and find schemes that will address people's problems about parking in residential areas.
Back in May, you know, that ward elected 2 UKIP councillors. Have you ever done any feedback and said, you know, people, why do you think people in May in Mark Hall ward voted UKIP?
Well, certainly the limited amount of information we can get, obviously we can't go around challenging people on their vote. It's obviously a very personal thing. I was pleased that over 600 of our own voters turned out to vote for us. Obviously some of our Labour voters voted for other parties, but the main feature of election day was the number of people who obviously hadn't voted before. People were coming up to us outside the polling station and asking us how do we vote. So it was obvious that there were a lot of first-time voters. I think that obviously UKIP benefited from the tsunami of publicity in the last 3 weeks before the election, which obviously you couldn't turn the television on without seeing Mr Farage, and his personality came across, and I think he persuaded a lot of people to vote. We found that a significant number of voters are coming back to Labour, and although we don't want to be overconfident, we're hoping for a good result, and we're hoping our supporters are going to turn out on the day.
Danny, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.